day, and welcome to Normal Radars Weekly Wraps. I am Viv Govender. This week we're going to look at the latest jobs numbers in the US and UK, Trump's breakup with Elon Musk, and possible military action in the Middle East. Then, in our tech segment, we're going to look at the release of O3 Pro, the latest from OpenAI, and how they are looking to retake the lead in the AI space. So starting off, let's look at some jobs numbers. So we had UK's job numbers come out, showing that it was the worst, non-COVID jobs report that they've had basically in the last decade. They've had a very uneven, set of economic numbers from the UK recently, due to things like front-loading for tariffs, as well as some other issues, including the after effects of a budget or a new budget by Labour, which significantly, according to employers at least, increased the cost of hiring people. The minimum wage went up. We saw, some certain taxation issues were also quite negative for employers. And they are blaming that, in addition to some of these, once-off effects, for the weakness in the the UK job market. We saw US jobs also come in. Jobless claims came in a bit weaker than expected, and we are seeing employee confidence in the jobs market at the lowest it's been in over a decade. Again, it was fears around what's been happening with regards to layoffs. Fears around AI, which is emerging as, I think, a bigger problem. We've already started to see people in the tech sector really, being fearful of being replaced by, improving AI. We are also, are seeing places like finance and, law, where there is evidence that, companies are not hiring the same number of, low level or entry level staff as they were in the past. Just because they can replace those staff members with, or some portion of the staff members with the AI systems. This, I think, is going to be a problem going forward. One of the things that these AI systems are really good at doing is giving you a lot of, low-level labor-saving, services. So if you wanted to, do something in the past, you'd ask an intern to go out and do a chart for you, or an entry-level employee, an entry-level lawyer or a financial person to go and do a chart or do a report or do a brief for you. Now you can really easily do that with AI as well, and you would have to do the same thing you do with that intern or the entry-level person, which is kind of read through what their work looks like and to make sure just they didn't have a total mess up. And I think that is something that it's a business model that I think is going to be really dangerous going forward for entry-level staff members especially. And in the tech space with software development, there is real evidence that we are seeing software developers significantly improve their capacity to produce software with AI systems. They can't yet go out and just say, okay, build me this new game, and just walk away, come back and have it work entirely unsupervised and without any kind of supervision. But what it really can do is it can allow a senior developer to go and assign tasks that they may have assigned to a junior person and have them, have the software do it. And when the software is done, you would do the same things you would do as you would with a junior person, which is going to go through and make sure they did a good job. And that's obviously, again, going to reduce the number of people employed, especially at the entry level. We are also seeing a similar kind of, or even a worse move happening in, graphic design and visual arts. This is even before the release of the video stuff that we're seeing recently, where we looked at just the still pictures. Now, obviously, there are artists out there that are creating, works of art that are special and unique, but the vast majority of people that are working in the visual art space are doing briefs for, some artwork for a pamphlet or for an advertising campaign or, for a book cover, that kind of stuff. Stuff that AI can replace really, really easily. And for those that haven't seen the latest AI stuff in the last, I would say, few months, we've gotten to the point, where it's really difficult to determine what's AI and what's not AI. There are these tests where you can go out and you can actually look at, two different photos, or and determine which is AI, which is not AI, and as you can do multiple of these things and just kind of get an idea at how good you are at spotting AI photos. And I've done this recently, and I don't score much more than 50%, showing that there's not much more than a chance, a 50-50 chance that I can spot AI versus non-AI. So it's effectively AI, in my eyes at least, is as good as non-AI tools generated images. We're going to get there very quickly, I think, with regards to video. You've already see that with regards to the stuff that's coming out with the Gemini, etc. But ignoring that, so another sector that's being affected. I've talked to you guys before about Waymo. 10 million rides already being done, and we are already seeing expansions happening in multiple more cities. As I said to you guys before, Waymo introduced in San Francisco back in 2023. Less than 2 years later, they've overtaken Lyft and Uber and the other rideshare services. Just Waymo alone has overtaken all of them combined, and by quite a significant margin. It's like 50% more people are using Waymo than are using Uber, Lyft, all of those rideshare services combined. And that happened in a period of less than 2 years. If you see a similar move happening across the US and across the world, I think that would be hugely impactful on the labor market there as well. So overall, we are seeing labor markets showing significant more weakness than we had normally seen with this level of economic growth without a crisis coming through in the past. And I think that's going to be a really important issue going forward. The fact that we are starting to see job replacement happening right now due to things like technology. Now, moving on with regards to what's been happening with Elon Musk and Trump. Look, these are two very volatile people. Some may credit Elon Musk as being a bit less volatile than Trump, but in many ways he's as volatile, and in the past has shown willingness to basically burn bridges in spectacular ways. For those that don't know what happened, Elon Musk and Trump had a big split up over the last week or so, and Trump called Musk crazy, and Musk said that Trump was on the Epstein list. And for those that know what the Epstein list is, that's pretty much the worst thing you can say about a human being. It is a really it's one of the worst insults you can imagine. Okay, I'm not going to even discuss what it means here, but I mean, trust me, it's pretty bad stuff. Musk has since, in the last couple of days, as I speak to you, apologized for some of these things that he went too far, and I think Trump has also pulled back to a certain extent. Now, is this rift irreparable? No, I don't think so. I mean, G.D. Vance, Trump's VP, called Trump Hitler or Hitler-like figure. He's the Trump's VP. So Trump has been shown to forgive people in the past. Musk, the fact that he's apologized could also indicate that he's willing to basically mend bridges. But I don't think the relationship is going to be as strong as it was in the past, when Musk was spending multiple days over at Trump's Mar-a-Lago, bringing the kids over to play with him, etc. And considering the accusation about the Epstein list, the whole idea of having your kids around Trump would be, I think, quite problematic if you really believe that to be true. So what does this mean going forward? Well, look, with the whole Trump thing at the moment, I think so much has happened in the last week that we have to discuss it, I think, in a bit more detail. On Thursday or so, when this news broke up about Elon Musk and Trump, there was also the meeting between Trump and the head of Germany, Merz. But all that news has kind of been driven out of the kind of news cycle because of rioting that's happened in California due to ICE, which is the immigration services of the federal government. There's been attacks, not serious attacks, not like shootings or whatever, but like projectiles thrown at people. Some vehicles have been lit alight, etc. in California. And Trump has used this as an excuse to really amp up the rhetoric around immigration, as well as send first the National Guard into California, as well as now about a couple thousand Marines into California to, in inverted commas, preserve the peace. Now, is this necessary? Well, possibly, but I would argue that you've seen much, much worse violence in the past without having this level of government intervention. And the last time we actually saw this kind of government intervention in California, especially, was around the Rodney King riots, which was almost 3 decades ago, 3+ decades ago, in fact. I do think that Trump is seeing this as a kind of a blessing because what it does is it really plays to his one strong suit, which is immigration and law and order. It punishes a blue state. The governor of California has complained about the fact that the Marines and the National Guard were sent in. And it basically hides some of the negatives that he's experiencing at the moment, especially around, like I said, the split up with Musk, but also around the jobs numbers we discussed, the economic numbers we discussed. So this kind of thing is really positive for him because it kind of highlights his strength and kind of overshadows some of his weaknesses. Which brings us to the next point we're going to discuss, which is what might be happening in the Middle East. As I speak to you, news has broken out that the US government has asked the families of officials and service members in the Gulf to evacuate. Now, why would they do that? It's when they think that there might be some actual, combat action happening. You don't want to have your family, sitting in a base within reach of missiles of an enemy that you might be attacking. You don't want your embassies to be fully staffed up when you think there might be a chance of them being attacked. So who would be attacked here, or would be attacking here in this case? It would be Iran. There has been indications that Iran has really, I think the tensions around really come to a head in the last little while. Israel especially is pushing for a move against Iran. They view Iran right now as being particularly weak, and they think they can do to Iran what happened to Iraq, in which case they would topple the leadership of Iran and have some kind of much weaker, maybe secular leadership replacing them. This has kind of, a certain extent, worked in Iraq, where we've seen the leadership of Saddam Hussein replaced by, a makeshift, much less powerful grouping that has no real impact in the world outside of Iraq. We've seen that to a certain extent play out in Syria, where the Assad regime was replaced by rebels who may at one time have been part of ISIS, but that's obviously been papered over. But it does remove Syria as a serious threat, or at least a coordinated threat to Israel. And I think the Israeli government is seeing this as an opportunity to do the same to Iran, which would be something that would not just be something in Israel's favor, but also be in favor of places like the Gulf, which, for those that don't know, even though they are both Muslim regions, Iran and the Gulf states, we are looking at a situation in which there are long-standing religious differences and enmities between the parts. And in fact, in many ways, the biggest hatred some of these Gulf states have towards Iran, and almost vice versa. So that might be something in which we could also see a whole coalition of people in favor of a move against Iran. The one thing that works against this is that Trump, despite, like I said, this might benefit him if there was a war with Iran, has historically shown himself to be quite reticent to get the US into any new wars. In fact, he was the first president for quite some time in the US who had not basically started a war. And so this would be something I think would be against his general character, or his general kind of demeanor, at least in the last little while. It's also been shown that J.D. Vance, who's the VP, has been anti war with Iran and war in general. He was a former Marine, and I think that might be influencing things. And in fact, there's maybe a bit of a split happening in the Republican Party about this. We've seen people like Tulsi Gabbard, J.D. Vance, and some others escalating into actual war. But there's other people like Exit and members of the Republican Party, like Lindsey Graham, etc., which are much more keen to instigate some kind of attack on Iran. If there was an attack on Iran, I've talked about this in the past, the place to watch out for would be the Straits of Hormuz, which is a really key piece of water that allows for the transport of natural gas, oil, etc., from the Gulf, especially to places in Asia. China, India, very dependent on this region for its energy imports. And if there was a war with Iran, and Iran decided to do things, something, for instance, like mine the Straits of Hormuz or something, we could see a significant impact on global demand for oil and natural gas, and a significant impact on the economies of places like India and China and some other Asian countries, because of the fact that there's going to be restricted in the amount of natural gas and oil that would be able to flow to that region to them. Now, what would be the situation in South Africa if this was to occur? We've really seen the oil price spike up on the news that we are seeing, tensions rise. If there was an actual war, we did see the Straits of Hormuz close. Well, the Chinese have a lot of money. The Indians are quite a big economy. They would be able to go out and buy oil from other parts of the world if they had to. So they would obviously suffer a bit, but they would also be able to go out and demand oil from other parts of the world. That would raise the price of oil internationally, price of natural gas internationally. And we in South Africa, because we are quite small, would be takers of this price. and we would experience, I think, at least some inflation in the fuel sector because of this. And maybe if you look at the of the overall, impact of high energy prices, especially transport prices on the whole economy, you'd find that this would probably be a significant inflationary shock for the South African economy. Now, I don't know for certain this is going to occur, but I do think that the signs right now are worrying. This is one case in which Trump's natural proclivities are actually one of the good things out there. The fact that he doesn't like warfare, or it seems doesn't like warfare, I think would be a very good sign for peace. But you never know; these things can really be out of control without any particular individual desiring it. Now, moving on to OpenAI. OpenAI released its O3 Pro model, and from what the most recent reviews are showing, this is one of the most insightful models out there. People are saying that if you give it enough context, it can give you incredibly strong responses to some difficult questions. It still has the same problems around hallucination that the other programs have had, but if you use it in a way where you don't need it to actually do like a simple automatable job, but more give it yourself deep insight into a problem or into some kind of difficulty you're having right now, it is, I think, significantly better than anything else out there at the moment. I've seen many reports by evaluators, people that are in the AI sector, etc., who've come out and said that there's usually been a very tight race at the front for the flagship models, but this particular model, O3 Pro from DeepSeek rather, is a slam dunk win for OpenAI, and it's showing some of the biggest separation we've seen in a while. Now, I don't expect this to last very long. Remember, this is only about less than 50 days since we had the previous big version released from the normal OpenAI from ChatGPT, some OpenAI. But I do think that if you had to look at the overall market, I do suspect that the next time Gemini releases something, it's going to take this lead back from OpenAI. I do think the next time Grok releases something, it's probably going to be up there, at least on par, if not better than the best from OpenAI or Gemini, at least for the point at which it's being released. The level of innovation here is remaining extremely fast. And I do think that in terms of what's happening with regards to OpenAI, it's very positive that they've retaken the lead, but I don't think this is a lead that will last indefinitely. In fact, I would probably suspect the next version of Gemini and the next version of Grok, or the next version of Claude even from Anthropic, could easily displace OpenAI's current dominance. Okay, that's it for this week. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to speaking to you guys again next week. Cheers.